How to use quotation marks correctly. What are quotation marks? I'm sure you've seen these before. These marks show parts of your story where somebody's speaking. Here's an example. "I'm so tired," Alan said. This and this mark the beginning and end of something that somebody's saying. First of all, let me explain two things, dialogue and dialogue tag. Let's look at this sentence again. In this sentence, "I'm so tired" is the dialogue, and "Alan said" is the dialogue tag. A dialogue tag is something that shows the reader who the speaker is. Let's look at the same example. "I'm so tired," Alan said. Rule number 1. If the dialogue tag comes after the dialogue, put a comma at the end of the dialogue, but before the closing quotation mark. This is the dialogue tag. It's placed after the dialogue. If that's the case, even though Alan said, "I'm so tired," which is a complete sentence, you put a comma before the closing quotation mark, not a period. Here's another example. "This is my favorite dress," said Sally. Just like the previous example, the dialogue tag comes after the dialogue, so you put a comma before the closing quotation. Another example is, "I put your keys on top of the dresser," Mark yelled from the kitchen. The dialogue tag comes after the dialogue, so there's a comma before the closing quotation mark. Rule number 2. If the dialogue tag comes before the dialogue, end the dialogue tag with a comma and put a period at the end of the dialogue, but before the closing quotation mark. As you can see, the dialogue tag comes before the dialogue. In this case, you use a comma after the dialogue tag and use a period at the end of the dialogue, but before the closing quotation mark. Next example. Mark whispered, "I like your jokes, even if some people don't like them." The dialogue tag comes before the dialogue, so you put a comma at after the dialogue tag and put a period at the end of the dialogue, but before the closing quotation mark. Rule number 3. When you have a new speaker, you should create a new paragraph line. Let me show you an example. "This is my favorite dress," said Sally. "It looks great on you," said Mark. This is an example of an incorrect way to use quotation marks because there are two dialogues that are said by two different people, Sally and Mark. The rule says that every time you have a new speaker, you should make a new paragraph line, which means go to the next line. So, it should look like this. When Mark is a new speaker, go to the next line when you start Mark's dialogue. Do you understand?